A derivative aircraft, half Boeing's development budget. Few expected it to succeed. But the Airbus A330 became one of the most successful widebodies ever built. It opened routes that didn't exist, made long-haul affordable for millions, and helped prove you don't need 4 engines to cross an ocean. Around 1,660 delivered, 3 decades in service. This is the story of pragmatic engineering under pressure, from a compromise born of financial necessity to an aircraft that democratized long-haul travel. This is how Airbus built an unexpected success. Turn the clock back to the late 1980s, Airbus is struggling to compete with Boeing. Boeing's 767 had changed the game. Twin-engine aircraft could now cross the Atlantic. ETOPS regulations had expanded through the mid-1980s. And by the late 1980s, twin-engine transatlantic operations were an established reality. Airlines were ordering 767s by the hundreds. Meanwhile, Airbus had nothing competitive. The A300 was outdated. The A310's economics and payload range couldn't match the most attractive 767 missions. The A340 won't be ready for years, and it's a 4-engine aircraft at exactly the moment the industry is moving to twins. Airbus needs a twin-engine widebody to compete, but there's a problem. Developing one from scratch costs $3 to $4 billion. Airbus doesn't have it. It has already spent billions on the A320 family and A340 development. The 767 was proving something revolutionary. Twin-engine aircraft could fly long over-water routes safely. ETOPS regulations were expanding. The economics were undeniable. 2 engines burned less fuel than 3 or 4. Airbus wasn't short on ambition, it was short on time, money, and margin for error. And moments like that force a different kind of thinking, because when the rules change, the winners aren't always the biggest players, they're the ones who adapt first. We're seeing the exact same thing happen right now with AI. That's why this video is partnered with Outskill, the first AI-focused educational platform built to accelerate practical AI learning for people like you and me. They're hosting a 2-day AI mastermind training live this Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. EST, and for the next 48 hours, you can join completely free. This 16-hour training has already helped build over 10 million AI-first professionals worldwide and is rated 4.9 out of 5 on Trustpilot. People from marketing, finance, operations, product, and engineering join because AI is no longer industry-specific. It's now essential across every role. You'll learn how to build AI agents that plan, write, execute, and report for you, automate workflows that run even while you sleep, connect tools like Sheets, Notion, CRMs, and email into profitable systems, and use AI to save hours every week and gain a real edge at work. Some attendees have even launched AI-powered services, bringing $3,000 to $4,000 per week by applying what they learn. You'll also unlock premium lifetime bonuses, including the AI Prompt Bible, AI Profit Roadmap, and a personalized AI Toolkit Builder, plus access to the 2026 AI Survival Hackbook when you attend both days. Seats are limited. Grab your free seat by using the link in the description or pinned comment. Now, back to the video. Boeing had a decade's head start. By the time Airbus could respond, the 767 had already accumulated hundreds of orders. Airlines had invested millions in maintenance infrastructure, pilot training, and parts inventories. Back then, the 767 was the safe choice. Boeing was the safe choice. Airbus faced an existential crisis. Without a competitive twin-engine widebody, they would cede the entire market segment to Boeing. The A340, while impressive, was built on the wrong assumption that airlines would always prefer 4 engines for long-haul safety. The market was moving. Airbus was standing still. Then, someone in Toulouse pitched something crazy. A small team ran the numbers. If Airbus shared the majority of the A340's components, same fuselage, same wing, same cockpit, it could slash development costs dramatically. The joint A330-A340 program's total costs were estimated at around $4 to $5 billion, with hundreds of millions of dollars in savings from shared components. The business case clicked. Same type rating as the A340, it means pilots can switch between them with minimal training, shared maintenance procedures, shared parts, unprecedented operational flexibility. 1987, Airbus formally launches the A330-A340 program. 4 engines, or 2. Choose one. It was a brilliant move. Airbus doesn't care which airlines choose. Development costs are shared. Risk is hedged. But internally, everyone knew the A330 is the future. The A340 is insurance. This wasn't clean sheet innovation. This was survival engineering. Airbus took what it had and made it work. It didn't have the luxury of starting from scratch. It had to build the future from the parts of the present. Let's talk about a wing. Yes, a wing, because sometimes the biggest stories, they're told by the broadest strokes. The A330's wing is massive, approximately 60 meters tip to tip for the CEO variant, extended to 64 meters with winglets on the Neo, wider than a 767, almost as wide as a 777. This wasn't cautious engineering, this was ambitious. More lift, more fuel volume, better efficiency. A supercritical airfoil delays drag at high speeds. Result: the A330 cruises at Mach 0.82 while burning less fuel per seat mile than the 767. Everyone noticed. Winglets reduce induced drag, multiply the savings across thousands of flights, significant industry-wide fuel savings. The wing told airlines everything they needed to know about Airbus's ambitions. This wasn't a derivative pretending to be something new. This was an aircraft designed to compete at the highest level. The A330 kept the A340's fuselage, it kept the A340's cockpit, but that wing was built for a twin-engine future, and it became the foundation everything else was built upon. Strip away the marketing, the liveries, the airline brands, and what you're left with is this, an aircraft that represented one of the most comprehensive engineering achievements in commercial aviation of its era. The A330 isn't revolutionary because of one breakthrough, it's revolutionary because of everything working together. 3 engine options from day one: GE CF6, Pratt & Whitney PW4000, Rolls-Royce Trent 700. This eliminates engine preference as a sales barrier. Airlines could choose the power plant that best fits their existing maintenance relationships and fleet strategy. Fly-by-wire flight controls, entirely electronic, unlike the 767's cables and hydraulics. Easier to fly, flight envelope protection prevents stalls and overstressing. Lighter weight saves fuel. Computers make constant micro-adjustments that human pilots can't. The killer advantage? Cockpit commonality with the A320 family. Same side stick, same displays, same logic. An A320 pilot transitions to the A330 in a fraction of the time it would take to learn a completely different aircraft type. A 737 pilot moving to a 767 needs significantly longer, completely different cockpits. That consistency across the Airbus family, it reduces training costs for airlines and creates a pool of pilots who can move between aircraft types without months of qualification. The fuselage external width is about 5.64 meters, significantly wider than the 767, 8 abreast economy seating versus 7 abreast, 14% more seats per row, more revenue, more spacious feeling. The cargo hold offers more volume than the 767. The bottom line is the A330-300 carries around 250 to 290 passengers, with significantly better fuel efficiency per seat than the 767-300ER on longer routes. That efficiency advantage isn't incremental, it's transformational. Now, Airbus just had to prove it could actually fly. November 2nd, 1992. Toulouse-Blagnac Airport. The first A330 rolled to the runway. 5 test aircraft would follow. But this first flight carried more than test data. It carried a critical question. Could a twin-engine jet safely fly around 300 passengers for hours over oceans? ETOPS certification was the entire ballgame. Without it, the A330 can't fly transatlantic routes. Without it, airlines won't buy it. The skepticism was intense. Regulators remember engine failures over water. Flying 3 hours over the Atlantic on one engine makes safety officials nervous. Airbus had to prove not just engine reliability, but that every system has multiple redundancies. If hydraulics fail, 2 backups keep working. If electrical generation stops on one engine, the other powers everything indefinitely. Test pilots deliberately shut down engines mid-flight, but not simple shutdowns, simulations of catastrophic failures where fan blades break apart. They tested engine failures at the worst moments: maximum weight takeoffs, high altitude in turbulence, and poor weather approaches. They simulated cascading failures, engine failure and hydraulic loss simultaneously, flight control computers failing in sequence. Every nightmare scenario needs real flight data. Extreme temperature testing, scorching Australian heat where thin air reduces engine performance, Canadian freezing cold where fuel systems and engine starts become challenging. They deliberately flew into severe weather, not around it, into it. Turbulence, ice accumulation, and crosswinds at various weights, bird strike testing, lightning strike testing. The critical test? Single engine operations over distance. You're at 38,000 feet, 1,000 miles from land, one engine fails. The aircraft becomes asymmetric. Thrust on one side creates yaw. The remaining engine can't maintain altitude. You must descend, which burns more fuel because lower altitudes are less efficient. Can you reach land before fuel exhaustion? Engineers ran thousands of simulations, different payloads, fuel loads, temperatures, winds, and weights. They mapped every diversion airport across the Atlantic and Pacific. The famous flight test was Toulouse to Mauritius, over 5,000 miles. Pilots deliberately operate on one engine for extended periods. Fuel consumption matches predictions within 2%, handling exactly as expected. Every test passed. Not just passed, exceeded expectations. On October 21, 1993, type certification from Europe's JAA and the United States FAA, less than 12 months after first flight. The speed was remarkable. Most widebody programs take significantly longer. ETOPS certification followed progressively, from 90 minutes initially to 120, then 180, and ultimately ETOPS 240 in November 2009, making the A330 the first aircraft to achieve 4-hour single-engine certification. That opened virtually every route on Earth. Air Inter took delivery on the 30th of December 1993, with the type entering service on the 17th of January 1994. Air Inter operated brutal schedules, high-frequency routes, multiple flights daily, quick turnarounds, and constantly changing conditions. If the A330 survives this without issues, it builds the reliability record for ETOPS 180. The first 6 months were critical. Every delay, every maintenance issue gets scrutinized. Potential customers are watching. Boeing is definitely watching, hoping for problems. Results exceeded projections. Dispatch reliability was strong from the start. Early operations reported figures above industry norms for new aircraft. Pilots loved flying it. Real validation came from Thai Airways, first delivery mid-1994. Thai planned regional Asian routes initially, Bangkok to Hong Kong, Singapore, Tokyo, but its real goal was aggressive, long haul to Europe and Australia. Airbus engineers worked with Thai in Bangkok for months, monitoring every flight, analyzing every data point, fixing minor issues before they became problems. Thai operated aggressively, high daily utilization, significantly above typical rates. Every flight generates data on engine performance, system reliability, and maintenance requirements. Thai Airways finally opened the door for ultra-long-range operations. The floodgates opened. Cathay Pacific ordered A330s for their regional network, Malaysia Airlines for Australia and Middle East routes, Garuda Indonesia to replace aging DC-10s. Singapore Airlines evaluated the aircraft for regional operations. Across Asia, airlines snapped up A330s as fast as Airbus built them. But the biggest prize, that remained North America. In 1994, Northwest Airlines ordered A330s specifically for Pacific routes, some of the longest, most challenging overwater operations in the world. US West Coast to Japan, China, Korea, Southwest Asia, 10 to 12 hours over the Pacific with limited diversion options. If Northwest trusts the A330 over the Pacific, that sends a message. This aircraft is the real deal. US Airways ordered for transatlantic routes. Hawaiian Airlines evaluated them seriously, eventually ordering the type. Even Delta, one of Boeing's most loyal customers, with a massive 767 fleet, they started evaluating the A330. For Airbus, this was validation of every compromise made during development. The derivative approach had worked, the shared components with the A340 had paid off, the investment in that massive wing had proven itself. The A330 was proving itself in the real world, where it mattered most. One aircraft is a product, a family of aircraft is a strategy. Airbus launched the A330 with variants targeting different market segments. The A330-300, the original workhorse. This is the baseline model, approximately 64 meters long, 250 to 290 passengers in typical configurations, with range varying by maximum takeoff weight version. Perfect for high-demand routes not needing a 777 size, New York to London, Singapore to Sydney, Dubai to Bangkok. It competes directly with the Boeing 767-300ER. The 300 became the foundation of the A330 family, racking up the majority of early orders. Airlines use it on everything, from transatlantic routes to trans-Pacific marathons. It's efficient enough for medium-demand routes and capable enough for serious long-haul. The A330-200, the range extender. But airlines wanted more range. Sydney to Los Angeles? Too far. Dubai to Los Angeles? Barely possible. The A330-200 was developed in the mid-1990s, about 5 meters shorter than the 300, carrying 220 to 260 passengers, but with significantly extended range capabilities. Completely new routes became possible. Even today, Air Transat flies secondary Canadian cities to Europe and the Caribbean. Qantas operates Perth to Johannesburg, one of the most challenging Southern Hemisphere routes. Airbus offers multiple maximum takeoff weight options. Airlines tailor the aircraft to specific needs, without buying a different type. The A330neo, the reinvention. Early 2010s, the A330 is by now showing its age. Airbus had a choice: develop an entirely new aircraft, $10 to $15 billion over 8 to 10 years, or upgrade the existing A330, $2 to $3 billion over 4 to 5 years. July 2014, A330neo announcement. New Rolls-Royce Trent 7000 engines, 14% less fuel per seat according to Airbus. Additional range, new aerodynamics with larger winglets, refreshed cabin with LED lighting, larger bins, quieter operations. 2 variants, the A330-900neo and A330-800neo, with capacity and range depending on configuration. The A330neo finds its niche with airlines already operating classic A330s. TAP Air Portugal, Delta, Garuda Indonesia, and Kuwait Airways value the seamless upgrade, minimal training, same maintenance infrastructure, low operational risk. The A330 became a family of purpose, not size for the sake of size, but aircraft designed to serve every segment of medium to long-haul aviation. Not every member of the A330 family found success. The A330-200F freighter offered significant cargo capacity. The wide fuselage accommodates oversized pallets that won't fit narrower aircraft. For large industrial equipment, this generates premium rates. Initial expectations seemed promising. The freighter market was growing. E-commerce was beginning to boom. But sales, they were deeply disappointing. Only 38 delivered versus hundreds of 767 freighters. What happened? Boeing had locked in major customers year earlier. FedEx and UPS built entire networks around Boeing freighters. Switching requires massive infrastructure investment. The 2008 financial crisis devastated cargo volumes. Cargo operators are extraordinarily conservative. They value proven reliability above everything. Airbus lost the dedicated freighter race decisively. It faced a choice: invest marketing resources and production capacity in an aircraft that few customers wanted, or focus on the variants that were selling well. The A330-200F program ended with 38 deliveries and no outstanding orders. Yet, here's the twist: passenger-to-freighter conversions. As older A330s retire from passenger service, specialized conversion companies transform them into cargo aircraft. The economics are compelling. A converted A330 costs a fraction of a new-built freighter. The conversion market could see significant numbers of A330 CEO freighters flying well into the 2040s. The decision to deprioritize the freighter was strategically smart. Airbus realized that sometimes the smartest approach is knowing when not to compete. Resources went instead into perfecting the Neo variants, which became far more successful. For over a decade, the Boeing 767 had seemed untouchable. Entering service in the early 1980s, the 767 had become the backbone of twin-engine widebody aviation. By the time the A330 arrived, Boeing had accumulated hundreds of orders with a seemingly insurmountable installed base. Airlines invested millions in maintenance infrastructure, pilot training, and parts inventories. The 767 was the safe choice. Then, the A330 entered service. The competitive dynamics shifted almost immediately. Let's talk numbers. The A330-300 offered more passengers, 250 to 290, versus the 767-200 to 767-300ER's 218 to 260. That's more revenue seats per flight, over thousands of annual flights, millions in additional revenue, more cargo capacity. On routes where freight revenue matters, this makes routes profitable that otherwise aren't. Better fuel efficiency on longer routes. Under 3,000 miles, differences were marginal. Over longer distances, the A330's efficiency advantage becomes significant. When fuel prices spiked in the 2000s, that efficiency became existential. Boeing responded. They stretched the 767 into the 767-400ER. Only 37 delivered to airlines. Continental, now United Airlines, bought 16. Delta took 21. That's it. Why buy a stretched 1980s design when the more modern A330 costs similar money with better performance? By the mid-2000s, the 767 passenger version was in terminal decline. Boeing delivered the last passenger variants in 2014. The A330 outlasted the 767. Early operators discovered the A330 excels where the 767 struggles. Routes over 5,000 miles, fuel efficiency advantage is undeniable. Routes needing high-capacity cargo, wider fuselage wins decisively. The pattern became clear. European carriers dominated orders. Asian carriers were equally enthusiastic. US carriers split. Emerging market airlines saw the A330 as their ticket to competing globally. For the first time, Airbus wasn't chasing Boeing in the widebody market, it was competing. The A330 didn't just win on specifications, it won because it aligned with how airlines wanted to operate. Asia became the A330's laboratory. Cathay Pacific, Malaysia Airlines, Garuda Indonesia, Thai Airways, Singapore Airlines. These carriers operate in intensely competitive markets where fuel efficiency and passenger experience matter enormously. Thai Airways proved ETOPS 180 was achievable. Once that happened, the entire Pacific opened up. Lufthansa Group ordered A330s for routes that couldn't fill a 747 but needed more capacity than a 767. Air France connected Paris to French territories in the Caribbean, Africa, Pacific, routes that can't fill a 777. KLM deployed A330s on its African network. Emirates, Etihad, Qatar Airways couldn't afford massive A380 and 777 fleets initially. The A330 let them test routes, establish frequencies, and build brand recognition. Once demand was proven, they upgraded to larger aircraft. The A330 wasn't their endgame, it was the tool that built their empires systematically. North American carriers historically favored Boeing, but cracks appeared. Delta, which inherited its A330s from Northwest, went all in on transatlantic expansion. Dozens of A330s launched service from Atlanta to virtually every significant European city. The strategy works. Delta built one of the largest transatlantic networks in the industry. Without the A330's economics, this expansion wouldn't have been sustainable. US Airways ordered for transatlantic routes. Even traditional Boeing customers began diversifying. The common thread across all regions, airlines valued flexibility and operating economics. The A330 delivered both. No drama, no surprises, just an aircraft that did what it promised, day after day, flight after flight. Ask passengers what they remember about flying on an A330. The cabin width. The wide cabin enables genuinely comfortable seating. Most airlines opt for 242 in economy, 2 seats by each window, 4 in the center. Every passenger is on the aisle, or 1 seat away. Nobody trapped in the middle 2 seats from the aisle, like the 767's 232. Business class typically features 1-2-1 configurations. The A330neo introduced improved airspace cabin features, including larger overhead bins. For pilots, the cockpit features advanced ergonomics. Side stick controllers give better instrument visibility. Fly-by-wire controls reduce workload significantly. Flight envelope protection prevents stalls, overstressing, and exceeding maximum bank angle, invaluable in high-stress situations. Pilots familiar with the A320 can transition to the A330 quickly because the fundamental logic is the same. That consistency across the Airbus family reduces training costs for airlines and creates flexible pilot scheduling. The A330 has achieved excellent dispatch reliability in mature service, translating directly to revenue, fewer delays, fewer cancellations, better aircraft utilization. On long-haul A330s, crew rest arrangements have transformed working conditions. Depending on airline configuration, some A330s feature dedicated crew rest compartments. The A330 wasn't designed to impress, it was designed to work, leaving only the experience of flight itself. The A330 has an exceptional safety record, one of the lowest hull loss accident rates of any widebody, but 2 incidents reveal the aircraft's vulnerabilities and its remarkable resilience. Air Transat Flight 236, August 21, 2001, the Azores glider. An A330-200 en route from Toronto to Lisbon developed a fuel leak over the mid-Atlantic. Improper maintenance during an engine change had left a fuel line too close to a hydraulic line. After hours of flight, the lines chafed, the fuel line ruptured. The crew noted a fuel imbalance. They attempted to troubleshoot, transferring fuel between tanks, but they didn't realize they were losing fuel overboard at an alarming rate. At 6:13 UTC, the right engine flamed out from fuel starvation. Captain Robert Pesci, with 16,800 flight hours, including 796 on the A330, descended to proper single-engine altitude. 10 minutes later, he sent a mayday. At 6:26 UTC, 65 nautical miles from Lajes Air Base at 34,500 feet, the left engine flamed out. both engines dead. No thrust, just a 200-ton glider with 306 people on board over the Atlantic Ocean at night. The ram air turbine automatically deployed, a small emergency turbine that generates just enough hydraulic and electrical power to maintain basic flight controls and instruments. Captain Pichet had to glide approximately 65 nautical miles, one of the longest unpowered glides of a passenger aircraft in history, at 6:45 UTC on Laje's runway 33. Hard landing, 8 tires blown, but every single person on board survived. The aircraft itself suffered limited structural damage. It was repaired and returned to service, flying for years afterwards. Qantas Flight 72, October 7, 2008. An A330-300 with 315 people on board was cruising at 37,000 feet from Singapore to Perth. One of the aircraft's air data inertial reference units started sending wildly incorrect angle of attack data to the flight computers. The flight control computers, designed to prevent stalls, did what they were programmed to do. They commanded a sharp nose-down pitch to prevent the perceived stall. At 12:42 p.m., the aircraft suddenly pitched down 8.4 degrees. It descended 650 feet in seconds. Passenger and crew not wearing seatbelts were thrown violently into the ceiling. A total of 119 people were injured. The pilots recovered control and diverted safely. Investigation revealed the ADIRU's central processor had corrupted the angle of attack data through a rare malfunction, possibly triggered by cosmic radiation. This was an extremely rare occurrence across the vast A330 and A340 fleet. Airbus immediately issued emergency procedures. Software and design modifications were implemented. Both incidents demonstrate something critical: the A330's fundamental design, its glide characteristics, its redundant systems, its controllability even under extreme circumstances, gives crew a fighting chance when everything goes wrong. Over 30 years in service, over 1,600 aircraft delivered, and more than 72 million flight hours accumulated, with a hull loss rate among the lowest for widebodies. The safety record remains strong, though not without tragedy. The A330 didn't just reshape commercial aviation, it reshaped Airbus itself. Before the A330, Airbus was the European underdog struggling against Boeing's wide-body dominance. The A330? It changed that perception. It proved Airbus can develop highly competitive wide-body aircraft that airlines prefer in many scenarios. World-class engineering capabilities. The financial impact is hundreds of billions in revenue over 3 decades. These profits fund the A350, the A380, the A320neo, and A330neo. Without the A330's commercial success, Airbus might not have the resources for these programs. The A330 validates Airbus's commonality strategy, which becomes its signature competitive advantage. Sharing cockpits, systems, and procedures across the A320 and A330 families creates value that Boeing's fragmented approach can't match. Strategically, the A330 breaks into exclusively Boeing airlines. Once carriers bought A330s and experienced Airbus quality and support, they became more likely to consider A320s, A350s, and other Airbus products. The A330 is often the gateway. The industrial impact extends beyond Airbus. Suppliers like Rolls-Royce, Safran, and hundreds of others benefit. Tens of thousands of jobs across Europe, North America, and Asia depend on this program. Most importantly, the A330 proves the viability of the twin-engine widebody concept, now dominating long-haul aviation. Before the A330 and 767, you needed at least 3 engines for long-haul. The A330 helps prove modern twin-engine aircraft can be just as safe while being significantly more economical. This paved the way for the entire modern long-haul fleet. The A330 didn't just save Airbus's widebody program, it secured the company's future as Boeing's equal, and, in some segments, Boeing's superior. To understand the A330's enduring success, you have to understand what happens when Boeing finally responded. Boeing's 787 Dreamliner was revolutionary. The composite fuselage, the efficient engines, the passenger experience innovations, all of this was genuinely groundbreaking. But execution problems plagued the program. The 787 faced years of delays, production problems, supply chain nightmares, then, shortly after entry into service, battery fires grounded the entire fleet for 3 months. Airlines that had placed 787 orders waited years beyond original delivery dates. By 2018, when the A330neo entered service, the 787 had been flying for 7 years, with more than 1,000 orders. Airlines had already committed to Boeing. The market had largely moved. The A330 found its niche differently. It launched late, it couldn't match the 787's technology, but it didn't need to. For airlines already operating A330s, the Neo was exactly what they wanted: improved economics without operational complexity. Sales have been modest versus the 787, approximately 470 orders as of December 2025. But here's the twist: the classic A330 kept selling even after the Neo launched. With production lines fully paid off, Airbus offered competitive pricing. For budget-conscious carriers, buying a proven aircraft at a significant discount makes more financial sense than paying a premium for the latest technology. The A330 survived, not by being the best or the most advanced, but by being good enough at exactly the right price point. Sometimes that's precisely what the market needs. Let's take a breath here and talk about the remarkable things this aircraft has achieved. Long-range capability. The A330 has operated some remarkably long routes, pushing the type to its range limits on services across the Atlantic, Pacific, and between continents. These routes connect cities that previously required stops in between. Durability. Some of the highest time A330s have accumulated tens of thousands of flight hours, testament to structural durability. A well-maintained A330 can easily fly for multiple decades. The Beluga XL. Special cargo variant based on the A330-200, designed to transport aircraft components between Airbus production facilities. A massive fuselage, shaped like a whale, can carry entire A350 fuselage sections. Military operations. Multiple air forces acquired A330-based aerial refueling tankers, A330 MRTT, Australia, UK, France, Saudi Arabia, Singapore, South Korea. The A330 MRTT has won several international competitions against competing platforms. Private jets. A handful of A330s have been converted into luxury private jets for high-net-worth individuals and heads of state, featuring bedrooms, showers, conference rooms, and offices. Production milestones. The A330 has now been in continuous production for 34 years. Only a handful of aircraft in history have achieved production runs longer than 3 decades: the 747, the 737, the DC-3, and the A330, an aircraft that exceeded all expectations. These achievements paint a picture of an aircraft that's not just technically capable, but genuinely versatile and reliable. The A330 works across an impressive range of missions. That's the mark of a successful aircraft design. The A330 story isn't ending, it's evolving. A330neo production continues, the market is limited. Most airlines shopping for new widebodies choose the A350 or 787, but demand exists from specific niches. Airlines with existing A330 fleets valuing seamless upgrade, carriers in developing markets seeking affordable long-haul capacity, and leasing companies wanting versatile assets. And what the A330neo provides airlines with is crucial: cheaper acquisition costs, shorter lead times on orders. New 787 order? You're looking at deliveries in the early 2030s. New A330neo order? You're in luck. Classic A330 CEO production ended after nearly 3 decades and approximately 1,470 deliveries. But the fleet will continue flying for another 20 to 25 years, minimum. As older A330s retire from passenger service, they're prime candidates for cargo conversions at a fraction of new build costs. the conversion market could see significant numbers flying well into the 2040s or 2050s, giving the A330 platform a remarkably long operational lifespan. The e-commerce boom requires massive air cargo capacity. DHL and other cargo operators are converting A330s. The A330 isn't disappearing, it's finding new missions, remaining relevant in ways nobody anticipated in 1993. Every aircraft eventually faces decline. Even the most successful programs eventually age out as newer technology emerges. But the A330 is different. It's not declining, it's maturing into an institution. Look at what's being retired to make room for A330s, and what the A330 enabled. The Boeing 767 passenger version entered terminal decline. Passenger 767s will eventually fade in the late 2020s, early 2030s. The DC-10 and MD-11 disappeared from passenger routes. The A330 offered similar capacity, with twin-engine economics. The 3-engine and 4-engine era ended decisively. The A330, alongside the 767, proved that twins could fly anywhere. But the legacy isn't just about what the A330 replaced, it's about what it enabled. Medium-sized carriers with global ambitions got their enabler. TAP Air Portugal, Air Canada, Air Transat used it to expand international networks far beyond what larger, more expensive aircraft would allow. The democratization of long-haul travel. Before twin-engine wide-bodies like the A330, long-haul international travel was expensive and exclusive. Large aircraft flying high-density routes between major hubs, smaller markets ignored, ticket prices high. The A330 changed that equation. It proved you could profitably operate long-haul routes with medium-capacity aircraft. It opened hundreds of new city pairs never economically viable before. A family in Norway can now fly directly to New York for vacation at prices unthinkable 30 years ago. A business person in Thailand can reach Europe without connecting through multiple hubs. Looking at the numbers, approximately 1,660 delivered to over 100 operators worldwide, with nearly 1,500 aircraft in active service, carrying hundreds of millions of passengers. The economic impact of the program extends across airlines, suppliers, airports, and the entire aviation ecosystem. The competitive balance shifted. Airbus isn't chasing Boeing anymore, they're equals. This is the A330's true legacy, not just an excellent aircraft, though it certainly is, but a program that fundamentally changed the economics of long-haul aviation. The first A330 concept was pragmatic, incremental, and necessary, so Airbus compromised. It shared components, it borrowed designs, and it built something that exceeded expectations. The A330 represented a rethinking of what development economics could achieve, shared components as a strategy rather than a limitation. Every system, every component was engineered to achieve one goal: compete with Boeing effectively. It worked. The A330's achievement was proving that smart engineering can beat larger budgets. After watching Boeing establish dominance with the 767, Airbus needed to prove it belonged in the widebody market. It delivered. The A330 proved Airbus could execute complex programs as well as anyone in the industry. That credibility matters. It changes how airlines approach fleet decisions. It shapes how investors view the company. Some aircraft are successful because they serve a market need. The 737 and A320 families fall into this category, workhorses that efficiently move people on short and medium routes. Some aircraft are successful because they push technology forward. The 787 and A350 represented what was possible with composites and efficiency. The A330 is different. It's successful because it represents pragmatism. Every aspect of the program, from initial design through entry into service and maturity, has been handled with discipline. That's rare in aviation. Pilots enjoy flying it, passengers benefit from it, airlines make money operating it, maintenance crews appreciate its reliability, Airbus profits from building it. That's the definition of success. Right now, nearly 1,500 A330s are in active service worldwide. Around 180 of them are the new generation A330neos. They complete hundreds of thousands of flights every year. They carry tens of millions of passengers. Some of these aircraft have been flying for over 20 years, and they're still going strong, still profitable, still relevant. The conversion market could extend the A330's operational life for decades to come. The compromise that became a success story, the aircraft that helped democratize long-haul travel, the workhorse airlines trust with their networks, a foundation of Airbus's commercial success. In an industry often obsessed with being the biggest, fastest, and most advanced, the A330 succeeded by being the most practical. The A330, an unexpected triumph. And the story continues. Hey, before you go, the YouTube algorithm thinks you're going to like this video next, so why not check it out?